If you want to be the mayor or be on the city council in this city, you have to be a landowner. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting topic for you today, and it's coming out of the state of Oklahoma, and specifically the city of Edmond, Oklahoma, which is the fifth largest city in the state. So they have an interesting law on their books that says that in order to hold city office, you have to be a landowner. You have to own property within the city. Now, this is something that, it's an interesting topic because a lot of people, they believe that the people who have the most interest, the most vested interest in an area are those who own property there. And at the same time, you have a lot of cities such as San Francisco, which are a majority renter. They have more renters than they have property owners. And the renters will pass laws that are detrimental to not just homeowners, but they also are detrimental to businesses. And you know what? I don't agree that they shouldn't have the right to be on council, but I almost feel like, the property owners are a better representative of people who are thinking in terms of what is good for the city long term. So, it really comes down to, hey, this is an old way of thinking that they put in place in Edmond, Oklahoma, okay? A old way where the property owners were the only ones who really hold the power within the city. Now, that isn't bad in Oklahoma, but like I said, there's a lot of cities where it is so expensive, it is darn near impossible to become a landowner in that city. Now, should those people be able to hold office? I don't know. But you could have, theoretically, people who come in there and say, okay, I have no interest in your city whatsoever. I just moved into a studio apartment last week, and now I'm going to be running for mayor of your city, and I'm going to drive it into the ground. Well, we hear about stories all the time of people in Washington, D.C. who do sort of things like that so they can become senators or whatever. And you know what? I am a strong believer that, hey, you should at least have residency in a city for a certain time period, regardless of if you are a renter or a homeowner, before you should be able to represent the city in office, okay? So before we get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below, and let me know what you think. So what do you think of this law that says that in order to be the mayor or on city council or hold office within the city, you have to be a property owner? Do you think this is a good idea or a bad idea? Like I said, my personal preference would be more of a time thing. Like, okay, you have to have lived within this city for at least 5 years. That's it, and be able to prove that you've lived there for 5 years before you're able to run for office. And that way you would eliminate a lot of these people in here who just don't have any concern with what actually is happening within the city. But anyway, let's get into this article and see what it says. This article is coming from nondoc.com, and it says, property ownership requirement bars Edmond renters from holding city office. All right, let's get into it. When the Edmond City Council announced an application process for filling its vacant Ward 1 seat, one eligibility requirement caught the eyes of onlookers. To hold public office in Oklahoma's fifth largest city, residents must be a freeholder or landowner. Since its original 1925 text, the Edmond City Charter has contained language excluding residential renters, as well as anyone who lives with a spouse who may not have property in their name, from seeking municipal office, according to Edmond City Attorney Madeline Sawyer. No person shall be eligible to be mayor or councilman unless he be a citizen of the United States and of the state of Oklahoma, a freeholder in the city of Oklahoma, at least 25 years of age, a resident of said city at least 1 year next prior to his election, and a qualified voter of said city and ward from which he seeks election. Article 2, Section 9 of the Charter reads. And a lot of that stuff in there it seems reasonable to me, okay? I actually like the part where they say, hey, you got to be at least 25 years of age. You know what? I mean, I've heard about these towns where these 18-year-olds have gone in there and become mayor or whatever. And you know what? I would be kind of opposed to that because a lot of 18-year-olds, they're more idealistic and they don't always think in terms of common sense. They don't always think in terms of long-term practical solutions. Okay, I'm not saying all 18-year-olds are bad. I just remember how I was at 18, how a lot of the people I knew were at 18, and they wouldn't have been mature enough to be able to make long-term decisions that are going to impact people who own property and run businesses within that city. So I agree with that. The part about them being a resident of the city for at least a year, like I said before, I think that, having a time requirement before you're able to run for office, I think that's a good idea as well. 1 year, I prefer longer, 5 years at least. That way you don't get a lot of people coming in from outside trying to change things around unless they've put a more time investment into living in the community. Now, one thing they did mention in the paragraph before was that it would exclude anyone who lives with a spouse who may not have property in their name. And that's an interesting little thing there that they might have to fix. I know for a fact that I own all of my properties, in conjunction with my wife. And a lot of people, they might have their name on the deed of the property, the warranty deed of the property, because they bought it before they were married, and then their spouse might not actually be named on the deed. So that might, be one of those things that they might have to correct or fix in order for that person to be able to run for office. But you know what? I still don't see it being a major issue. So the main thing there, though, would be just stopping the people who are not landowners from running. And, I can't say I agree with it. It might have worked in 1925 when this law passed, but man, there's just too many renters now, and we have to open up. The renters oftentimes will live long-term within a single city, but we have to open up office to them as well, because they do have a vested interest in the city, especially if they've lived there for a long term. That's why I said the 5 years versus the 1 year. A person who's lived in a unit for 1 year, you can easily just pack up and go after your lease is up and just move on to somewhere else after you've destroyed the city. Like, I was a city council person, but I don't give a crap about this city. Well, you know what? I do believe you should have some sort of, vested interest in it. Okay. And so, yeah, interesting topic. Tell me what you think of this whole thing. This is kind of a short video today. I'm just kind of curious what your opinion is of this whole situation. Do you believe that a person should be a landowner in order to hold office? And some people, I've talked to, they've even said that they believe you should be a landowner in order to vote. Now, I'm not going to go that far, but tell me what you think in the comment section down below.